Abraham Lincoln was born on the 12th of February, 1809, in a tiny one-room log cabin in the American frontier. His family was very poor, and their home stood in the middle of rough, wild land. There were no paved roads, no big schools, no modern comforts, only trees, mud, and hard work. His father, Thomas Lincoln, was a struggling farmer and carpenter. His mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln, took care of the home and the children with very little money. This small cabin, with its cracks in the walls and simple furniture, did not look like the starting point of a future president, but it was. From this humble place, a story of quiet determination began. In those early years, life was all about survival. Abraham helped with chores from a very young age. He carried water, chopped wood, and worked in the fields. Winters were cold, and summers were hot and tiring. Food was simple and sometimes scarce. The family had to grow or hunt most of what they ate. There were no toys, no screens, and no entertainment. But this difficult environment taught Abraham important lessons: the value of hard work, the importance of responsibility, and the reality that nothing in life comes easily. Formal education was almost impossible for poor frontier families. Abraham Lincoln attended small local schools only for short periods, and in total he probably had less than 1 year of classroom learning. The school buildings were simple log rooms, with rough benches and almost no materials. Yet, this lack of schooling did not stop him. In fact, it pushed him to become a self-taught learner. He borrowed any book he could find, often walking long distances to get or return them. At night, after working all day, he would sit near the faint light of the fireplace and read until his eyes were tired. The fire provided both warmth and light, and in that weak glow, his mind wandered far beyond the walls of the cabin. Books became his hidden treasure. He read the Bible, old storybooks, Aesop's fables, histories of great nations, and biographies of famous people. These pages showed him worlds he had never seen and ideas he had never heard. They taught him about courage, justice, leadership, and human nature. Each book added a little more strength to his character. He learned how powerful words could be and how important clear thinking was. Slowly, the poor boy in rough clothes started to build something priceless inside himself, a rich, disciplined mind. When Abraham was 9 years old, tragedy struck his family. His mother, Nancy, became very ill and died. Her death left a deep emptiness in his heart and in the little home. For a child who already had very little, losing a loving mother was a heavy blow. But even in this sadness, he did not turn bitter. Later, his father remarried a woman named Sarah Bush Lincoln. She became a kind and supportive stepmother who treated Abraham with warmth and understanding. She saw his love for books and encouraged him to study. With her support, his inner fire for learning burned even brighter. As he grew into a teenager and then a young man, Abraham Lincoln became known for both his physical strength and his honesty. He was tall and strong, able to lift heavy logs and do exhausting farm work. At the same time, he could also sit for hours reading or writing. People in the community noticed that he did not lie, cheat, or break promises. If a customer in the store accidentally paid too much, he would walk miles to return their money. These small actions earned him a powerful reputation. People began to call him Honest Abe. It's a simple nickname that reflected a deep truth about his character. Lincoln worked many different jobs before he became a lawyer or politician. He worked on riverboats, helped in a general store, served as a postmaster, and even tried small business ventures. Some of those ventures failed, and he faced debt and disappointment. He lost money, lost elections, and made mistakes. But every time he fell, he stood up again. Instead of letting failure define him, he treated every setback as a lesson. This attitude became one of the keys to his success. He understood that the road to greatness is not straight or smooth, but full of bumps that test your commitment. Eventually, Abraham Lincoln decided that he wanted to study law. He had no rich parents to pay for school and no easy path to a degree. So he did what he always did. He taught himself. He borrowed thick law books and studied them carefully, often late into the night. Paragraph by paragraph, he trained his mind to understand complex legal ideas. This required focus, patience, and discipline. After years of effort, he passed the necessary examinations and became a lawyer. For a boy from a poor log cabin, this was a huge step. It proved that with determination and self-education, a person could change their place in life. As a lawyer, Lincoln traveled between small towns, working on many different kinds of cases. He defended people who could not easily defend themselves: farmers, shopkeepers, and ordinary citizens. He listened carefully, asked clear questions, and spoke in simple language that everyone could understand. In court, he was calm, respectful, and fair. He did not use tricks or dishonest methods to win. If he believed his client was wrong, he sometimes refused to take the case. Judges and juries began to respect not only his intelligence, but also his integrity. His work as a lawyer sharpened his speaking skills and deepened his understanding of people's problems. His interest in people and justice naturally led him into politics. Lincoln first served in the Illinois state legislature and later in the U.S. House of Representatives. He carefully followed national issues, especially the expansion of slavery into new territories. Slavery was a system in which human beings were treated as property bought, sold, and forced to work without freedom. Lincoln felt strongly that slavery was morally wrong. He believed in the basic principle that all humans are created equal and should have a fair chance in life. However, many powerful groups disagreed. The country became more and more divided. Lincoln became famous for his debates and speeches, where he spoke against the spread of slavery. He did not shout or insult his opponents. Instead, he used logic, stories, and moral reasoning. He compared slavery to a spreading fire that, if not stopped, would burn the entire house of American democracy. His words were clear, honest, and deeply thoughtful. Many people who heard him speak changed their minds, not because he forced them, but because he made them think. His ability to communicate difficult ideas in simple language made him stand out as a leader. In 1860, after years of hard work and many disappointments, Abraham Lincoln was elected as the 16th President of the United States. It was an extraordinary transformation. The boy who had once read by a weak fire in a log cabin now sat in the highest office of his country. But winning the election did not mean his challenges were over. In fact, they had just begun. Soon after his victory, several southern states decided to leave the Union because they feared his anti-slavery views. The nation slipped into a terrible conflict known as the American Civil War. The Civil War was one of the darkest periods in American history. Families were divided, cities were destroyed, and thousands of young men died on battlefields. As president, Lincoln carried the weight of every loss on his heart. He spent long nights reading battle reports, meeting generals, and making heavy decisions. Many people criticized him, and the pressure on his shoulders was enormous. Yet he remained calm and focused. He believed that saving the Union and ending slavery were worth the cost and the pain, even when he felt personally exhausted. During the war, Lincoln took one of the most important decisions of his life. In 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared that enslaved people in the rebelling states were free. This did not instantly end all slavery everywhere, but it changed the meaning of the war. The conflict was no longer only about keeping the country together. It became a struggle for human freedom. For millions of enslaved people, this act brought hope and a glimpse of a new future. For the world, it showed that Lincoln was not just a political leader, but also a moral one. Later that same year, he delivered the famous Gettysburg Address at the site of a bloody battle. The speech was very short, but its impact was huge. In just a few lines, Lincoln reminded the nation that it had been founded on the idea that all men are created equal, and that the sacrifices made in war must lead to a new birth of freedom. His words turned sorrow into purpose, teaching people that the suffering would have meaning if it helped build a better, fairer country. This ability to bring hope out of pain was one of Lincoln's greatest gifts. As the war neared its end, it became clear that the Union would be preserved and slavery would be abolished. Lincoln began to think about how to heal the wounds of a divided nation. Instead of calling for revenge against the South, he spoke of mercy, forgiveness, and unity. In his second inaugural address, He used the powerful phrase, "with malice toward none," with charity for all, showing that his heart was not full of hatred, even after years of war. He wanted a peace built on justice and kindness, not bitterness. Sadly, Abraham Lincoln did not live long after the war ended. On the evening of the 14th of April, 1865, while watching a play at a theater in Washington, D.C., he was shot by an assassin. He died the next morning. His death shocked the country and the world. People cried in the streets and lined up to pay their respects. They were mourning not just a president, but a symbol of hope, integrity, and sacrifice. Today, Abraham Lincoln is remembered as one of the greatest leaders in history. Yet his greatness did not come from money, luxury, or privilege. It came from his character. He started life in poverty, faced deep sorrow, experienced repeated failures, and led his country through a brutal war. Despite all of this, he remained honest, humble, and committed to doing what he believed was right. His real riches were his honesty, his courage, his compassion, and his dedication to justice. For your viewers, Lincoln's story is a powerful reminder that the outside of your life does not have to match the inside forever. You can be born in a small house, wear old clothes, and have little formal education, yet still become someone who changes the world by reading, learning, working hard, and building a strong moral character. You can increase your inner wealth, even when your outer situation seems poor. Abraham Lincoln's journey from log cabin to president is not just a history lesson, it is a living example of how patience, self-education, and integrity can turn struggle into success and make a life truly rich.